Welcome to Naughty Elder Woodcraft. I recently bought the new Bauer 14-inch bandsaw and wanted to make a new circle cutting jig for it, as my old one doesn't fit. I am using this opportunity to make an upgraded one that is easily adjustable. I begin by cutting a piece of scrap oak for the T-track. I then cut what will be the guide for the base for the jig from 3/4 birch plywood. I cut it to length on the miter saw. I then measure from the front edge to the blade to begin planning the layout of the base. I mark where the blade will be on a 1/2-inch piece of birch plywood I had lying around, and then mark from there to add a positive stop near the edge of the birch. I apply a little glue to the stop and tack it in place with pins until the glue dries. I then use the fence to cut the first part of the base up to the point where the stop hits the edge of the table. Here I prepare the guides in the track by laying washers in the bottom to lift the guides a little proud of the tabletop to attach them to the base. I then lay the guides in place on the washers and apply CA to them. Carefully set the base on the guides using the fence to keep it in line and square to the table. I I then press it down on the guides to make sure they are seated. Just a quick test to see how well it fits. I take the 3/4 birch I previously cut and add a 45-degree bevel on both sides. This will become the track for the adjustable part of the pivot. Next, I bevel both sides of the slider that will be encased in the track. I don't usually make detailed plans on this type of project. I just wing it as I go. Here I remove the blade so I can lay out the base to see how I need to go about the next step. I push the fence against the base so I can line up the next parts against it. I then cut the width of the 3/4 birch to make the track for the slider. I lightly sand the edges of the parts for smoother sliding. I will then glue the track parts to the base. I add masking tape to the bevels to keep the glue off of them. And it also works like a spacer, so they are not too tight to the slider, creating too much friction. I add a thin layer of glue, after which I assemble the parts against the fence of the saw and tack them in place with pins. Adding screws may be overkill, but it's just a little extra peace of mind. After removing the tape, it slides nicely. I replace the blade and get ready for the first test. I have to cut the blade slot in the upper section of the base. I drill a hole to add a screw to use as a pivot. This will be for cutting a circle with a hole in the center. In a moment, I will set up the other end of the slider to cut a circle with no hole. Here I mark lines diagonally from the corners to find the center of the stock. I then drill a hole in the center. It isn't really necessary to drill all the way through, just deep enough to place on the pivot. I almost forgot to add a slider lock. I use a 1/4 inch star knob, 1/4 inch all thread rod, and a 1/4 inch nut. This will lock the slider in place to prevent it from slipping during the cut. I mark an outline of the nut to cut out the material to countersink it. I use a 7/16 drill bit and drill just deep enough to sink the nut. I then cinch it down with the rod and star knob. After that, I cut the all thread to length. Now I'm ready to cut a circle. I take the diameter of the circle I want, divide by 2 for the radius, and measure that length from the blade to the center of the pivot. I then lock the slider in place with the star knob I added, set the hole of the stock on the pivot, slide it forward into the blade, and spin it a full turn. It cuts a perfect circle every time. Now, just for grins, I will fill the center hole, set up the other end of the slider with a 1-inch hole, a 1/2 inch deep, and cut a 1-inch dowel a little over a 1/2 inch thick, and recut the circle with no hole. I add a piece of masking tape to the center of the stock, apply a little CEA to the end of the dowel, attach it to the stock, and put it on the slider. Then, like before, slide the stock into the blade and turn it a full round. And there it is, a circle with no center hole. I am really liking the new Bauer 14-inch bandsaw. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.